Hello and welcome to the Bikes for Death podcast. My name is Patrick and I am your host. And we are living in a different world than we were when I recorded this episode on February 25th, almost a month ago to the day. I thought a lot about what I could say in regards to the coronavirus. I know that there's thousands of people listening all over the world, and I know that we are all in this together. I know that's something that I think we feel sometimes and we acknowledge, but what has really occurred to me is how this virus has really highlighted how interconnected we all are. I mean, it's crazy to think that this whole thing started in Wuhan, China, and it has now impacted the entire globe. Not everyone is infected yet, or maybe they won't be, but I have this sense we are all experiencing this to some degree. I don't think there's anyone that isn't affected by what's going on right now. And the one thing that's really stood out to me is how connected we really are. And if I was going to take something positive away from this whole thing, I guess that would be it. I hope everyone out there is doing well. I hope you are staying home or going on bike rides solo or whatever, responsibly riding your bike. Damn it. I really do hope that everybody out there is doing well. Be smart. Realize that your actions do have an impact, and we all need to do what we can. We can all get through this together if we just stay alone at home or on solo bike rides. Much like my guest on today's episode, who did a solo bikepacking trip along the Mexico-United States border all the way from California to Texas. And that is where I caught up with Jenny Schmidt. We met up at Rocky Hill Ranch in Smithville, Texas, which is just between Austin and College Station. And I actually got to thinking about it, and that was the first place that I ever did a mountain bike race. I believe I was 19 years old, so that would have been 1999. Anyway, I have a rich history at Rocky Hill Ranch, been going there for many years. I guess actually it would be appropriate to say over a decade now. But yeah, so it was great. We after she made her journey to Texas, as y'all know, I always try to catch up with people if they're going to be riding through or to Texas and doing something pretty neat. So fortunately, we were able to get the stars to align and meet up for a mountain bike ride. And then we sat down for a chat in the van. That's right. This is the first time I actually have used the Bikes or Death mobile podcasting studio, and I'm ashamed to say that actually the audio sucked. I left one of the van doors open, and there was wind coming in, and Jenny sounded like she must have been talking right into a tornado. I mean, it sounded really bad. So that's why this episode is getting out a little bit late. Like I said, I recorded it about a month ago, but I had to send it off to my new best friend, Douglas Edge. Once again, he went through the audio and completely saved my ass. So thank you, Douglas. Everybody, we owe you a debt of gratitude because trust me, this one was way worse. So, and we had a great conversation. So I was super bummed with the audio quality. But so the first interview in Van or Death was kind of conversation was good, but my lack of experience really shone through. So now I know. Now I know. Don't do that. That's bad. That's how we learn. Sorry about that. Anyway, Jenny and I had a great chat, had just come fresh off a really neat experience where she was riding along the border to gain a greater appreciation and a real like personal understanding of what the issues were that were surrounding the border. That was one of the aspects of her trip, and we'll get into the whole thing as we get into the interview. I would like to say that after she left Texas, she flew back to her home in Washington, and they have really been hit hard with the coronavirus. I know that it's hit her community very hard. So to her, I'd like to say, hang in there. And to everybody else, we will all get through this together. We are part of a species that has been around a long time. We are intelligent. We are strong. We evolve and figure things out, and we will get through this. But we can get through it a lot quicker and a lot better and a lot faster if we all just stay home and practice some really good social distancing. Hang out with your kids. Hang out with yourself. Get to know yourself a little bit. Read a book. God damn it. Go ride your bike by yourself. Anyway, you get the point. One other really quick note before we get to the show. The Grand Gravel 500 race that I was training for was set to take place on March 19th. So that's just a few days ago. It was canceled, which isn't really surprising because the main sponsor was a hospital and a healthcare organization. So I didn't really see them endorsing an event that would congregate people together. But there were a few people who lined up for a grassroots unofficial race. I was not one of them. I felt like I needed to be home with my family, and with unsure resupply spots and all the craziness that's going on right now, I just felt like I needed to be home. But there was a race. 3 people showed up and only one finished, Mark McGraw. So shout out to Mark. I actually went out there and took a few pictures of him, and I think I'm going to try to get him on the podcast and talk to him about being the first and only finisher of the 2020 Grand Gravel 500. All right, everybody. I appreciate y'all so much. One great thing about podcasting is I can do it from home. I just recorded another great episode just a couple days ago. I have a couple more lined up, and I'm going to keep rolling them out. So I appreciate everyone's support. If you want to find out about how you can support the show, head over to bikesfordeath.com. Check it out. See what you can do. I know times are crazy right now, so I'm not asking for a lot. Actually, I'm not asking for anything, except for one thing. If you'll head over to iTunes and leave a 5-star review, I appreciate it. It helps people find the show, and it makes me feel good. All right, that's it. Let's get to the show.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends, or you could be alone. You ride for a day, or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes for death. Bikes for death. Podcast.
And now we're recording a podcast. See how that happens? It's easy.
Hooray!
You just hit that button, and all of a sudden, here we are.
Seems so much fancier in faraway land.
Yeah. I'm really trying to break down that idea that I'm a professional on any level.
Yeah, I can tell.
We're really in the back of my van right now. Yeah, so welcome to the back of my van.
Thanks.
Jenny Schmidt.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
You are my first guest in the new Van or Death. I don't even know what we're calling. We're calling the van. The van has its own Instagram, Van or Death. But I'm. This is historic for me. First interview at this table that was made by Maker and Racer. He's I don't know if you follow Choco Bandit on the Instagrams. Okay, well, he was a past guest on the show. Has a great, he died in a bike race and then rehabbed himself back to come, and I can't remember, he either won or got second place.
Oh, rad.
I don't remember. But a great story, great human being, and it's just special to have a piece of his work here in the band. So
yeah,
anyway,
cool.
Welcome.
Thanks. I'm honored.
So you, I think, are the guest who has traveled the furthest to come and interview with me. So why don't you just give us a rundown on the last couple months, where you came from and how you came to be? Well, I guess I should say we're at Rocky Hill Ranch, kind of in between Austin, San Antonio, and College Station. We did a little riding today.
Which I actually have no idea where we are.
Yeah, that's why I figured I'd field that part. But,
Thanks.
How'd you get to this general area?
I rode my bike, mostly. I just finished a bike ride from the Pacific to the Gulf. Started in San Diego, California, and rode mostly backcountry gravel roads to Brownsville, Texas. And then got on a bus, San Antonio, and now I'm here.
How long did that take?
I think it was about 30 days of actual bike riding. I took quite a few rest days, some of which was planned, some of which was not.
Yeah.
Turns out it snows in Texas, which is not something I was expecting.
Sometimes. Yeah.
But yeah.
Once this year and you got it.
Yeah.
So why this trip though? Why were you going, from California to Texas?
Along the border.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of a few reasons that all collided together at the same time. My amazing employers let me take a 2-month sabbatical to work on just some mental health. And I do my best self-work when I'm on a bike. So I decided to try and map out the hardest long-distance ride that I could on gravel. And it's winter, so being in the South made the most sense. And,
right.
I've also just been really drawn to understanding what's happening in our country in general. And I think it's really neat to be able to go to a geographical location to learn about what's happening in our country and the border, specifically right now. And I think bike riding with a purpose is just a really, really special way to bike across country. So I picked the border.
So it seems like there was two components, one being a mental health aspect, and then also just immersing yourself in a new culture, and like understand it from the ground, like go out there and actually see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about both those. Which one do you want to tackle first?
Either one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you start with mental health. So if you feel comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard.
Well, you took the trip as a way to improve your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So in what way was it? Are you comfortable saying what you were struggling from?
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
I'm like tiptoeing.
No, it's fine. Open book. I went through some trauma a couple years ago, and grief and depression and anxiety, and was trying all of the conventional ways of dealing with that, and really had a community spring up around me and take care of me. And it was getting to the point where it just felt like I needed to do something on my own. And
to see if you could, because you had all this support and you're like, okay, but I need to be okay by myself too. You kind of.
Yeah, that, and just it was almost like all these amazing people, all this wonderful support I had. I was just kind of letting them be the good things in my life. It was almost like a distraction from my pain, and I wasn't really facing it, and it kept surfacing in ways that were really unhealthy. And I felt a real sense of like, I wanted to be the person that all these people loved and improve myself for them. And I knew that I wasn't really going to face this pain unless I biked 2,000 miles and
alone.
Figured it out, yeah.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere,
Exactly.
on the side of a ditch. And,
pretty much, yeah.
So how did that unfold for you?
It took a while. I'm really also pretty good at distracting myself.
Are Aren't we all?
Uh-huh. So yeah, it took about, I'd say, 1,400 miles until I was ready to really dig in and
Yeah.
be alone. And the first like 3 states I went through, I ended up meeting up with a ton of friends and a lot of really cool people and communities, and was just really immersed myself in the border side of this project.
Yeah.
And so my mental health was doing, I mean, I was on a bike. It was great. I was
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, it's easy to be happy there.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And then it sounds like it gave you a project, like something to focus on, a goal, you know.
But yeah, I hit about mile 1,400, and there's something that happened that just kind of triggered everything. And I was going into the desert alone for 3 days, and I knew that I was going to face everything and deal with it, and it was definitely pretty daunting. And
Wow. You knew because you decided that was going to be it. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And what desert?
That was Big Bend National Park.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah.
That's I mean, you know, when you're telling this, you know, describing this to me, that's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful place. So I'd love to hear about your experience there, what that was like for you.
Gosh, I mean, there's no way to put words to how gorgeous that place is.
We have talked about that on this podcast. It's like, yeah, there really isn't the right word. So, you know, give it your best shot. No one else has got it either.
It's just like there's a life to the mountains there, and the mountains meet the desert and meet the river, and it's just this stunning, majestic landscape that you cannot be there and not appreciate it. At least that's what I think.
I don't, yeah. I mean, I think even the RV people appreciate it. Maybe not as well as they could, but
yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, it's awe-inspiring. You can't go there and not just have your jaw. Are they thinking we're in charge?
I think they must, yeah.
Okay, they're going to come ask us questions. Okay, we're going to take a little pause.
And we're back.
And we're back. We had some disc golf enthusiasts looking for directions to the nearest disc golf course.
Yeah.
We don't know where it is. All right. So we were talking about Big Bend. And sorry, were you in the national or the state park?
This one I was in the national park, yeah.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
But you visited the state as well? Oh,
yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, went through both.
Perfect.
Yeah. And like you said, the really cool thing about Big Bend National Park is that, I mean, you have to work pretty hard to get there. Like, there's no easy access to Big Bend National Park if you don't live near there.
Right.
Like, you're driving
even
a long
by
way.
car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no easy way to get there. You can't fly. Wait, in Lahita say, do you have an airport? Anyway, I get distracted. Go ahead.
Yeah. Pretty magical place.
Where did you camp?
I don't know.
Okay.
That day. It was it was in between, was it Cottonwood?
Yeah, could be Cottonwood.
And the Rio Grande Village.
Okay.
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in there.
It was Loop. Maybe it was Loop Camp, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're all good.
Yeah.
I was just I just got back from there, did a little trip in December. I think we were there 4 days and switched campsites, you know, found a primitive campsite, new one every single day. We did some bike packing. So half of it was on the bike and half of it was in the van because it started raining and we're wusses. And we had a van right there. So it's like, I think we'll not suffer.
Yeah.
We just made that choice.
Yeah. No need to suffer.
Yeah. Was that your first time to Big Bend?
Second time.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you knew you had that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first time I went, I was on a road trip in the winter and just accidentally discovered Big Bend National Park. I just saw a spot of green on the map, so I decided to go there.
Yeah. In a sea of non-green, there's this one rather large, actually, green spot. 1.3 million acres, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah. So I didn't have a lot of time to explore. So I knew I'd be coming back someday.
Yeah.
I was pretty stoked.
How long did you get to spend there?
Let's see. So it took me 2 days to ride through the park, and then I took a rest day because I wanted to wait for the Bacchius crossing to open.
Okay.
And then I had a rest day, which I'm glad because it was really shitty wind and cold and raining. So then the next day the crossing opened, and I did an out and back ride that day into Mexico. And then had some tacos. and then the day after that I did the Old Ore Road.
We just did that one.
Yeah. So 3 days riding, 4 days riding, 5 total, I think.
Yeah. How was it? Just, I mean,
so rad.
I don't know. You're like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talk about Big Bend probably too much on the show, but I love it there. I was hoping that you got a chance to really spend some time there. I didn't know. I knew you went through there, but some people just like ride through it. I'm like, no, you need to.
Yeah, spend some time.
You got to spend a little time there.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing I was disappointed about was that I had planned my itinerary specifically. This is probably the only thing that I had timed out that I wanted to be there during the full moon.
Oh.
And I was, but it was cloudy the whole time.
Oh. Did you get like a waxing or waning moon? Like the next day, did you get to see the?
No, it was cloudy the whole time.
The whole time.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay.
Yeah.
I was picturing like just that one night. Oh, yeah, that's unfortunate because the night sky is, as you know, equally as magnificent as everything else. I've had this debate too. It's like, which one's better, nighttime or daytime?
Right. Yeah. I love night riding in the moonlight. Like, it is one of the coolest things in the world.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
A girl we were riding with earlier, your friend Amanda. I don't want to put her on blast. I'll cut this out, unless she won't mind. But
she won't mind.
She won't mind. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she was not a big fan of riding through the dark. She liked to be in a group, but she has mountain lions where she rides, so it's different. See, like there's like one mountain lion in all of Big Bend Ranch or something. So or Big Bend. The park system there.
A lot of coyotes, though.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of those.
I'm reading Coyote America right now, actually. That's a fascinating species.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
and beautiful at night, too. Like, I love listening to coyotes. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all talking to each other, just checking in. They're like, all right, everybody here? Where are you?
Yeah.
In the book, Dan Flores? Yeah, I think so. He talks about that coyotes, in theory, would take a poll as to every coyote that was there all the way from the west to the east coast. And you can just imagine that reverberating through like all until you've reached every single coyote, because apparently they all communicate.
That's so cool.
They're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
And they I'm going off a tangent, but they regulate their population based on, so if some of them get killed, then the moms will produce more babies to offset for it. Or if there's not enough resources, they'll have less babies. So they like regulate their population based on where they are. Anyway. So they're so cool. Coyotes. Yeah. I'm learning to be a fan. I've been doing a little research on coyotes, or coyote. So tell me, all right, well, let's talk about the mental health a little bit more. Okay. I know we just didn't, I know you want to talk about it more. You don't have to tell, obviously, like exactly what went down, but did you have a positive experience? Did you come out better, stronger, happier?
I think so. I think I have still some processing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just like faced all of it at once in the most raw way, and just kind of, I guess, opened up the dam and it all flooded, and had this moment in the desert lying down on the ground where I was kind of facing myself with this decision of I was either gonna just lay there and not get up, or I was gonna get up and I was gonna figure it out, and I was gonna leave it all behind. And obviously I I stood
Hi.
up.
Spoiler alert.
And that's actually what this tattoo is part
Okay.
of for me. Just got my first tattoo last night.
Yay.
But yeah, and then after that, it was about, I think, 6 hours of biking and sobbing. And
Using the bike as a thinking machine, like, or
mostly just like, honestly, I don't remember.
okay, yeah,
It was pretty fuzzy.
yeah,
It was just like really trying to keep that momentum of, yes, I do want to just keep riding out of this and
right.
keep moving. And it was pretty cathartic. And at the end of that, I ended up seeing a bunch of bike packers, and it was just like the most cheerful way to exit the park too.
Randomly, just
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And I didn't know where I was going to camp that night, and I was stressing about it, and because the camp was full, and they were just like, "Hey, are you going to Rio Grande? You want our campground? We're deciding to leave." And I was like, "Yes, I do." Thank
Wow,
you.
that's crazy. Universe provides.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then yeah, going into Mexico that next day on my own was just a really special way to kind of process and decompress, and still not have all the distraction of like my friends and the internet. There's no service there.
Right.
So it was just a really cool way to just completely face it on my own with no distractions.
Yeah.
And then afterwards just felt a lot more excited and yeah, really faced a lot of it and feel like I left it behind.
Awesome.
We'll see.
I know you will.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just,
Yeah.
you and I had the opportunity to talk a little bit before we actually started recording, actually quite a bit because we went riding and stuff, but life is a process, you know, and no one's perfect right now, and we're all got our shit and we got to figure it out, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, the bike is it really has been for me. That's another thing we're talking about, a great, just a tool to help me with my own mental health and just stress, like getting that stress off, going on like a little trip to just hit that reset button. And I do it, you know, I like solo stuff for that same reason. A lot of it is my time to think, to evaluate, to process everything that's going on, because life is crazy. Life is coming at you fast, and there's people and there's bills. I mean, you know, it's a job. It's like it's like so much is going on. And I truly believe that there is so much value in taking some time to just look inside. For you, it was fix something. It was something you knew you needed to address, and you ride your bike because it's the best way to think, at least for me. Like, you're just it's like meditation, or I don't know. It's yeah. I found a lot of value in my own life on that side, and I didn't expect it. I didn't get that in mountain biking. No, I mean, no, we mountain bike today, nothing about it. But when you're like shredding and jumping, and you don't get that, you know, that's the part about bike packing that I didn't realize. I realized it was a cool adventure, a fun way to explore, have all your stuff, go wherever you want to go. But the surprise was, God, I feel better about me. Like, I'm figuring shit out. I'm feeling capable about being able to like have like, you just went across how many states? 4 or 5? 4 states.
Plus a few in Mexico.
By yourself.
Yeah.
Like, does that make you feel like a badass? Like, think about that. Take that into your normal day, your job or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, oh no, I could do this.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. I feel like biking is like, it's a vehicle for medicine that can handle or help you with so many different mental health issues, whether it's depression, anxiety, grief, trauma, low self-esteem, just so many things.
Everything.
And I don't know the science of it, of why
I'm not a doctor either, but I'm pretty sure I can say this 100%. The bicycle is the best thing ever
Yeah.
for everything.
Sweet. Yeah.
Relationships, recreation, health, mental and physical. I mean, really, I mean, I'm being a little bit silly, but there's some truth there,
Yeah.
you know, like I get a lot more value than, oh, I want to go on a bike ride today. Like, I'm sure that's what people think. Like, you know, they see how much I ride all these crazy
Yeah.
trips. Like, I don't know. They
No,
probably just think I'm
yeah.
out like just riding my bike, just twiddling. I don't even know.
Yeah.
People probably think I'm weird.
No, there's a purpose to it. And like I'll sing that to my dying day to anyone like who thinks that there's this intimidation factor to cycling. When I hear that, I just feel like I would move mountains to get that person on a bike and show them that you don't have to do cycling in any specific way, but if you choose to do it, it will help your self growth and your mental health.
Yeah. Well, that's a good segue into talking about your nonprofit, which is an intentional way that you're doing exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
So we actually haven't talked about it yet. I know about it, but what do you got going on there?
So back in Bellingham, Washington, where I live, a couple of my friends and I started a nonprofit called Shifting Gears. And which is awesome because you're having a podcast as well called Shifting Gears.
I just released an episode this morning announcing another podcast that I'm starting calling Shifting Gears. And so I found out that I plagiarized her name, but she's going to let me keep it. So we hashed that out over tacos.
Oh, it's a great name. We can share.
Thank you. It's an honor to share it with you.
Thanks. Yeah, we work to break down barriers to accessing recreation. And it all started when a friend and me were trying to actually start a bike touring company. And we did a pilot ride and took 12 people out on a tour. And just that 2-day tour, most of them, it was their very first bike ride ever. And it was very empowering. It was a very special experience. And afterwards, we talked about, would you do this? Would you pay for this? And every single one of them said that there's so much value to this, but I could never pay for it. And there's also this barrier and this barrier and this barrier. And so we realized that we didn't really want to, we want to serve everyone, but we would prefer to serve people who can't afford trips like that. And so that's kind of where it started. And once we started looking into that, we started just discovering so many barriers that exist to accessing recreation in general. And our nonprofit centers a lot around cycling, mostly because of me and how much I love it. But we do also focus on a lot of other recreation as well.
How long have y'all been doing that?
I think it's 3 years.
3 years.
Say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think one thing I'd like to mention there is something we talked about earlier that I'll mention delicately. Do you want to share about how a lot of these women don't feel comfortable to go on a group ride, and so it's sad that this even needs to kind of exist in a way? I mean, it's great that it's there, but at the same time, I mean, the way you said it earlier was pretty good. I don't know if you want to recant
about my first bike shop experience.
That, and then how that segues into to what you're doing now, and
I mean, my first bike shop experience was trying to buy a brand new bike for the Great Divide mountain bike route, and walking into the shop with my partner and having the bike shop clerk look at my partner and say, she knows how hard that is, right? And it's just like, I'm a pretty independent person who's willing to stand up for myself, and like I was able to work through that and still go to a different bike shop, buy a bike, go on this trip. But I can only imagine people that maybe don't have a support system like I did would have just given up.
Yeah.
And I hear that all the time. And work with we work with a lot of our participants and like coaching them on basically like how to prep yourself for walking into a bike shop and how much it sucks. And
It's crazy.
like, and I do hear from a lot of my male friends and other genders, and I think that's true for everyone. And I do think it is a lot harder for non-male genders to just exist in the cycling world.
I mean, my reaction whenever you told me that originally was really a little bit shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my soon to be ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. She and I go bikepacking together, and it just never occurred to me that in this day and age, it's still that big of a problem. Like, I know that there's gender inequality, but for the fact that like you just go into a bike shop and he just like shuts you down, or women don't feel comfortable to go on rides in groups where there's gonna be guys there, because like, we were talking to Amanda earlier, and she said this blew my mind, that she's a Kona rep, so she goes around and does group rides and demos and stuff like that, and she will lead these group rides and has yet to have another female show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's not okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, again, going back to what you're saying, it's like, yeah, it's sad, but we need to be able to, I guess, have a class that talks about, okay, how do you go into a bike shop? You know?
Yeah.
So I'll say this, guys, bike shop people, stop being dickheads. Stop being stupid. Like it's, I mean, I'm not trying to get all like feminist man, like whatever, but it's just like, common sense. Like, don't assume that you know everything about somebody. I mean, we have examples like Alexander Houchin, Lael Wilcox, others that I can't think of right now. I mean, you going across, I mean, you've done shit too. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of examples of women that can do badass shit. And it's ridiculous that there's this void where some people don't get it or understand it, or maybe they just weren't informed. So hopefully podcasts and conversations like these can help to, just educate people, because that's probably what it is, a lot of it.
I think that, and like on the very selfish side of it, I think that hopefully a lot of the bike industry folks will smarten up, because, there's so many small local companies that we can choose to go to instead. Or like me, like I purchased my bike online and was able to custom order it all. Like I didn't have to go into a bike shop.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully they'll catch up and they'll change. Otherwise, I think like there will be a time when we have so many other options. We don't have to go into a bike shop anymore if we don't want to.
Yeah, a bike shop should be the safe place. It should be the place that you go, and they're encouraging and welcoming and inviting anyone to buy a damn. I mean, you need to sell a bike. You are a store, so don't treat your customers like shit. Yeah, it's probably good. All of them. Brilliant. Just basic business principles here. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's that. I mean, I feel a little silly that I have lots of conversations with women, and one of my goals with the podcast is to do 50% men and women, like we talked about. And there's just not a shortage of amazing women or men or just people, just amazing humans to talk to about. People are doing crazy, fun, awesome things everywhere. Yeah. So it sounds like the bike shops really just need to like get with it together. Yeah. I have been seeing women's shops popping up though. I've been seeing quite a few women own, women run, women like women everything. Yeah. Which is cool. Yeah, it's pretty rad. Yeah. I want to get my bike from one of those shops next. Yeah. Just gotta find one. I'll go to somewhere not in Texas. Yeah. I know Seattle has quite a few. Oh, we'll go to Seattle. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the really cool things about bikepacking as a sport. I feel like we have such a really cool opportunity to make it what we want, because it is such a relatively new, I mean, it's been around for a really long time, but it's just really blowing up in the last decade. Yeah. And I think the Great Divide has a lot to do with that. And I also think Instagram has a lot to do with that. Like when I first started riding 10 years ago, on the Great Divide, I didn't see a single female, not one. Wow. And I did see some on blogs. Esther Harani from Tucson
I'm not saying her last name right.
Okay.
She held the Great Divide record before Lael, I think. So she was the only other female that I had to look to at the time.
Yeah.
That was before Instagram. And now it's just like you're seeing so many people like you, whether it's you're Hispanic and now you're seeing another Hispanic person out there, or transgender or something. It just makes you feel so much more like you can do that. And I think that's a really neat thing about bikepacking. And
yeah, I love that we're in a position right now to help shape the future of the sport to some extent. If enough of us are willing to set good examples of what this can and should be, at least in our opinions, right? Then there's an opportunity. And I feel like I feel the pull, there, and it's something that I work to be an antidote to just the Instagram, everything's a perfect world, I mean, there's so much more to everybody's story than a nice Instagram picture. And I'm on Instagram, so I'm not bashing it, but I mean, but there needs to be, I value the reality of what is actually happening. Like,
definitely.
I don't, let's not put everybody on a pedestal and worship them because they, it's like, no, let's figure out how we can get, like you're doing, how can we get people to experience this more? Can we get more people to recreate this way and have the same types of experiences? And damn it, the world would be a better place. That's all we got to do. Get the people on the bikes.
Problem solved.
Vote for me on Tuesday, people. I think those come out after the election. Yeah. So was there anything else about your shifting gears 501 what nonprofit is the normal thing to say. Yeah. I went the businessman route. But yeah, is there anything else there that you wanted to say or pitch that to anybody? What area does it serve? Just there in Washington?
Yeah, in Bellingham.
So yeah, what maybe if even like how people can find out more information or anything?
Yeah, our website is letsshiftgears.com. We have Instagram as well and Facebook at Let's Shift Gears. We do a lot of spring, summer, fall outdoor programming. And I don't know if you know much about the Pacific Northwest, but it's pretty awful in the winter. So we do a lot of workshops and seminars, inside-based activities.
Like what?
Our seminars are a lot of just like getting a lot of people in a room basically and talking about like, what does it mean to be afraid in the outdoors? What does that mean to you? And how can we help you talk about fear so that's not so much of a barrier for you? Because I don't think fear is something that we talk about very often, which I think is too bad because I think fear is important, but it also doesn't need to hold you back from something if you want to do that.
I have to just interject real quickly. When I went to the bikepacking summit, Joe Cruz gave one of the most eloquent speeches I've ever heard, and it was all on fear. I got a chance. I did record a podcast with him, so you can go back and listen to it. It's not the full meal deal. I think it's online somewhere, though. He's given it more than once. But anyway, very powerful. Yeah, his perspective on fear is wonderful. So I'll leave that for you to go and anyone else listening to go and check that one out. It's definitely worth it. Yeah, so y'all help overcome fear, just all kinds of topics. Yeah. Whenever you just said inside activities, I was picturing that maybe y'all were doing like hopscotch or basketball, like anything not to go crazy in the winter up there.
That too. We do some rollerblading.
Oh yeah, now we're talking. Yeah. Now we're talking. I came for the rollerblading. Yeah. I didn't come here for that. All right. Well, as you're talking, what is occurring to me is that you have, I'm guessing, a pretty deep well of knowledge and experience that you're drawing from. You've mentioned that you've done the Tour Divide going back 10 years, and you're leading conversations about fear and being outside and stuff like that. So give me a little snapshot of your personal history as a bikepacker, cyclist, whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I used to hate biking.
Perfect.
Scared to death of it.
Well, where's the stop button? I'm kidding. We just got done talking about like welcoming everybody.
Yeah, no, it was born out of necessity. My car broke down. I had 3 jobs all across town and needed to figure out how to get from point A to point B.
How old were you?
I think I was 25, so like 2 years ago.
Okay, all right.
No, I think
I'm not gonna say anything.
12 years ago. And I started out on my childhood specialized teal and hot pink rock hopper.
Oh, nice.
Just biking around town in the rain, and just started to figure it out, and was really struggling in Bellingham. It's a pretty dark, dreary, wet, cold place. And my partner at the time, I told him I just really wanted an adventure to break up the winters. And he was talking to a friend, and this friend was like, well, why don't y'all just do the Great Divide mountain bike route and go bikepacking? And we didn't know what that was. But he mentioned it to me, and I was like, yeah, sure. Sounds great. So that was my second ever mountain biking trip.
Whoa.
Or time on a mountain bike. So we did one test ride in Oregon, bought all the gear, got Revel 8 bags when Revel 8 bags were brand new.
It was
so cool. Yeah. And just did it.
What was your experience going into? I mean, just riding your bike around town. Were you like an outdoorsy person prior? Did you do other things, or was it just like a completely off the wall kind of adventure?
I grew up camping, hiking.
Okay.
I had a kind of a funny childhood too. Spent a lot of my time alone, lived out of my car off and on since I was 15 or 16, whenever you get your license. So being independent and outside has always been a part of my life.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I find that's a nice, that gives you a lot of confidence going into bikepacking whenever, it's riding a bike, and I know how to do all that stuff out there. So yeah, I'm finding, it shocks me sometimes actually how few people have, as Carrie State from K-Light says, bushcraft, a little bit of, understanding how to operate in a natural world and outside. And I was fortunate enough too to grow up doing all that stuff. So yeah, a lot of, all right. So you did you do the whole thing?
Yeah.
And that was the age of 25 ish?
Yeah.
Wow, how was that? First time, didn't even know what you're going into. Fresh bike packer. My first trip was 66 miles, like 150, whatever it was.
Yeah. It was great. Yeah. No, it was hard.
When did you realize it was hard? Like, did it take a couple of days, or did you?
Day one.
Day one.
We didn't know what we were doing. We overpacked. I had these big, huge binoculars and all sorts of stuff I didn't need. We ended up mailing home pretty quickly. And I had tried to train beforehand, and had gotten hit by a car 2 weeks before the trip.
Oh.
And I was fine.
Fucking cars.
Yeah. But my hands were just so bruised. And so I didn't ride leading up to the trip, and I had a really hard time holding my handlebars in any position. So the first week was pretty rough. And I was cramping, and back then I didn't know what a pain cave was, but I found it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But about a week into it, I was feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's pretty quick. A week to get your body from basically zero to riding the great riding the Great Divide is pretty impressive actually. That's one thing that you hear a lot of people talk about is just if you just our bodies are amazing. And if you ask them to do something long enough, eventually, if we're capable, your body will just kind of say, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. I get it now. I'm on the program. Fine. I'm here now. And then it'll do what you ask it to do.
Yeah.
We just don't ask it to do very much.
Yeah, right.
It's like push the gas pedal,
Yeah.
What? Turn the wheel to the right. Stick your arm out to get your McDonald's. Like, it's just like we don't ask anything of ourselves anymore. I mean, some of us don't.
Yeah.
Not present company.
I had some frustrating moments though. Like, I started out bike packing with clipless pedals. And I didn't know how to use them. And I'd never ridden single track. I wasn't a mountain biker. And I definitely, like, there were a few times where I couldn't figure out how to get my foot out of the pedal and would fall over and hit my arm on a rock yeah. And I ended up walking a lot of single track, and it's pretty frustrating. Yeah. You're pushing your bike for a long time.
What did you walk away from that trip feeling? What was your experience like in retrospect, having done it?
I was sold. Loved it.
Okay.
By Montana was like just absolutely wonderful. Was so happy. Wyoming, not so much my favorite.
Sorry, Wyoming.
Yeah. That Great Basin is hard.
Yeah.
I don't like wind very much.
That wind is brutal.
But yeah, then Colorado and New Mexico was just like one day after another of just pure heaven. Loved it. Loved being outside every day. Loved the simplicity. Just the power of moving yourself across the country one pedal at a time was so cool.
Yeah. It gives you a respect and appreciation for the people who like came before and like developed and like just walked or on a horse or a carriage or whatever. Right. And you're just like, this is cool. Like you're kind of tapping into like, I don't know. It's way easier for us still, but
yeah.
It's still, I mean, it really is a neat experience to be able to realize that you're capable of just getting on your bike and riding it all across the country.
Yeah.
What came next for you? So you fell in love with bikepacking, you knew. So then what does the next 10 years look like in a nutshell?
Just soaking up every bit of cycling that I could. I mean, I do a lot of other cycling now too. I'm actually an indoor cycling instructor as well. Okay. I teach class 4 times a week. And just...
It's a great way to stay in shape, I always thought. Like, I have no desire to do it, but I've kind of considered it sometimes. I'm like, man, that it would be great because you're getting paid and you're staying in shape, you know?
Yeah, I don't get paid. I volunteer.
Well, that's...
But we have a lot of fun.
Fun?
Yeah, we have a disco ball.
Okay. Oh, the disco ball.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I wanted to soak up every kind of cycling. I wanted to learn about my bike in a way that wasn't just my partner taking care of my bike for me. I really wanted to empower myself that way, and started to just like take my bike apart and put it back together and look at new kinds of bikes and bike gear. And I really was desperately craving to bike with other women. I loved all the people I biked with, but I really got sick of the ego and the competition. And
competition's got to go.
Yeah,
it's got to go.
Yeah. So yeah, just I love solo trips. I love biking with other people.
So that's what I was gonna ask. Like, did you segue away from that into solo trips, or did you find women to go bikepacking with?
All the things.
All of them.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, if you had to pick like a favorite trip or your favorite way to bikepack or recreate, like what would be a perfect trip? Or if maybe you've already had one that really stands out?
Oh gosh. Well, I am a firm believer in not having favorites.
Oh.
So I won't box myself into that answer.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah. I'm never going to say that again. You just changed my whole mind on favorites.
It's so limiting.
Yeah, it really, well, and there's so many factors. It's like, I mean,
Yeah.
this one compared to that, it's different. It's its own special thing. It doesn't have to be in competition. You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just changed me. I'm a new man.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I don't know. I love racing. I love solo trips. I love short trips right from my backyard. Even on a weeknight, going to work the next day, riding into town from the mountain, with friends, glamping, bikepacking, even bring a bottle of wine, go crazy. But I will say the Baja Divide Cape Loop with Amanda that I did earlier this year was pretty freaking awesome. Yeah.
Y'all spoke about it very fondly. I was getting jealous I wasn't there. It sounded like a good time.
I will say I love hills. I love climbing. And this border trip, I was expecting a lot more climbing. And so I'm craving some Washington mountains when I get home. But the Baja was the best of everything. Like, you have the mountains, you have ranch life, you have the coast. Yeah. Lots of tacos.
I actually wasn't familiar with that loop, so do you want to just mention what obviously most people probably know about the Baja Divide route, but yeah, what is this loop?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was part of the original route that Lael and Nicholas did, or if it was added on later. But most people fly into Cabo if they're doing just the loop, and go follow the coast clockwise, Todos Santos, and then you cut across the mountain range to La Paz, and then jump back on the coastline south to Cabo. Yeah. So you're in the mountains a lot, and you're also on the beach a lot.
Yeah, that's a nice combo.
Yeah.
I've never experienced it, but I can imagine. Yeah. Just a great change. I mean, just from one beautiful spot to another beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool. There's a hotel there called the Cactus Inn in Cabo that has started to kind of specialize in accommodating bikepackers. So you'll fly there and you can leave your bike box there and they'll babysit all your gear for you.
Oh, nice.
Which is pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more people that do this kind of stuff, the more communities and places will support it. Like, oh, yeah, we'll help out.
Yeah.
Really, they do. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's, so we talked about your mental.
Your
mental. Oh my gosh, your mental health. Let's go back to your trip here, going along the border, and how did that trip inform obviously you went into it, I'm guessing, with a perception of what's going on with the border, but where did you land on it?
Oh gosh. Well, I tried to go in with a pretty open mind as far as leaving behind my own prejudice and ideas on either side, and just kind of see what happened. And I would say that one thing I can certainly walk away from is that politically, when we talk about the border issue, it doesn't make any sense to me because the issue doesn't revolve around the border geographically. Like, you look at all this stuff that's happening and the reasons why we're talking about border patrol, and it really has nothing to do with the physical location of the border. And on both sides, north and south, and left and right, Democratic, Republican, rancher, or whatever you are, I was kind of floored that nobody wants the wall that lives there. Yeah. That I talked to. I didn't talk to everyone, obviously. There's 6 million people that live on the border on both sides. But it's devastating to hear.
What kind of reasons? Just the impact to the environment, or just that it's not necessary, it's useless, it's not going to solve the problem? I mean,
all those things.
Yeah.
Pretty devastating to them on a selfish standpoint. Cutting off irrigation and water land use to their farms, their cattle. talking to folks on the reservation, I mean, it's just devastating their land in a way that is criminal that nobody is talking about.
Is it going through reservation land?
Yeah,
Oh my
specifically in Arizona.
They'll just adverse possess it or eminent domain or whatever that's called.
Well, the way that they're going about it is in the court system right now. It's illegal what they're doing. But by the time we actually resolve that, the wall will have been built and the devastation will have happened. I mean, it's happening right now.
That's what I was going to ask is like how much of the wall is built? I mean, from what you saw, I mean, how much is there?
California was pretty much one big giant wall.
Really?
Which was kind of exhausting, to be honest. And then Arizona.
Staring at it for day upon day.
Yeah, I actually had to bike away from it a few times. It's not a happy place to be.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah. And there's just like gorgeous landscape.
Oh, that's the hard
And
part. For one of the hard parts.
Yeah.
Just blocking all that off. All the animals, everything that lives in that region is just like, nope.
Yeah.
Go figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Arizona seemed like it was maybe 50-50. But it's looking like they're on track to be 100% pretty soon.
Wow.
Arizona was pretty much no fence at all. Or sorry, not Arizona. New Mexico. Saw very little fence. And then Texas, a lot of fences in the big cities, obviously, like El Paso. And then once I left El Paso, I didn't see the wall again until I rounded the North Bend at Del Rio for a little bit. And then it was so bizarre. It was like 10 yards of a fence here and there. Like,
Yes.
What is the point?
I know.
I don't get it.
So that's interesting because my experience comes from Texas. And that's what I've seen in Texas is like there's just like these little bitty segments that
so
you can
weird.
just walk around.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. So my perception was that was kind of how it was. And I was like, I don't know if there's some political game going on here where they're like, yeah, we're building a wall. But they're building a wall.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, the part that is going to be hard for me is what they're going to do there at Big Bend. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do there.
I know. I can barely
comprehend.
I don't want to.
I don't want to think about it. Yeah.
If anything, I hope that doesn't happen. And part of why
are you an Edward Abbey fan?
Yeah.
I'm about to get Edward Abbey on that. So I'm like, no, man.
I feel like even the RVers will show up and like.
I feel like if you fuck with Big Ben, like I can't imagine.
I'm shaking my head right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's something I can do about it. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't like any of it, but that part is very special to a lot of people, not just us.
Yeah, and our economy, our tourism, like there's so much damage that would come from building a wall for 2,000 miles. Like. I would love for people to understand how much more damage is going to happen than good. And like you said, like you talk to people there who live with a wall and their perspective is, especially in California, like people figure it out. Like they're going to get here anyway. They're going to cross. Yeah. They'll do anything. Like they've just walked 2,000 miles from El Salvador because walking through these dangerous locations is better than what they're coming from.
Yeah.
Or you talk about the drug issue of drug trafficking. We're going to get drugs in America if we want drugs, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we are.
Even if we
are the driving factor. We are the buyer.
Yeah.
We are the reason. Let's get that straight.
Right?
They are supplying.
Exactly. And like, and you look at the statistics, if we're going to talk about that, and most of the drug trafficking happens at ports of entry anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's not
people carrying on their backs across.
That's not financially stable any longer. Like that's not.
Yeah.
There's too much supply and demand for that. And
is that so? What do you think? And I maybe you haven't figured it out. It's a big issue. So,
Yeah.
but what is there an alternative in your mind? Because you adamantly said this is not going to fix a problem.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would fix a problem? What do you think is a better step than a wall?
Well, one thing that's really important for me to say, I think personally, that I said to a lot of people as I was on this bike trip is that I'm not an expert and I'm not from this land, and I don't think that I have a voice to speak for these folks. And it was really important to me that they knew that intention.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really only decided to educate myself on, or, we all watch the news, we all read newspapers, but I know so very little. There's so many people that know more than me that have spent lifetimes researching it. But I will say that I think that our generation and the generation after us really needs to start learning how to have conversations. And and to just like
real
to
conversations.
And not debates and arguments and opinions. And so much wealth came to me in this trip from just listening to people on all sides.
Yeah.
And how rich would we all be if we could empathize with someone who's saying, I live on the border, I still need my guns, I still need my cattle, and I also don't want this wall, and there is also still an issue. And have that person's perspective, and then talk to a 16-year-old who is living in a big city across from the border and suffering from human trafficking and mental health and drugs and gangs, and talk about all of there's just so much to talk about. Yeah. And we're not having conversations.
No, we're building walls, which is the exact opposite of having a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's really sad.
It is.
But I agree with you in the conversation aspect of it, having open-minded conversations with an intention to understand the person and not judge them, but to truly seek to understand. You're going to get a lot farther going that route than you are by just automatically, whether it's a wall that I put up. If you say something I don't like, well, there goes that wall. You're not going to get it past because I have rich held beliefs that are not going to be broken down by you and your hippie ways. Yeah, that's one of the good things that getting away from Mormonism helped me to realize was that I had believed in something and now I know it's not true. So what else do I believe and will one day find out that is not true? So just really trying to be very open-minded to the fact that anything that I believe could be wrong, and we should be testing ourselves and asking ourselves questions. And we kind of talked about it on bike trips, like going and having some self-discovery and checking in with yourself and just checking in with yourself. Some self-care out in Mother Nature.
Yeah, who'd have thought?
I mean, oh man, I had this fitness place that keeps messaging me and I was like on a bike ride and I was just like thinking to myself, and I was just like, I go outside to recreate and it's free. There's no one's going to charge me a membership fee to go out. And I know you're at work at a gym, so
actually I
do volunteer at a gym.
Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah. The bikes are actually at my work, so I host classes in our warehouse at the brewery.
Oh, that's way better.
We're pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you were just like, hey, I would love to do this. It'd be cool. And company was like, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see the company coming to you and be like, now, would you be interested in leading a, what is it, spin class?
Actually, I wouldn't put it past him.
Really?
Yeah. We come up with all sorts of crazy ideas. And it's pretty rare that I say no anyway.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But more about the border.
Yes,
there's a couple things I wanted to say.
Oh, yes, please. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Don't apologize.
Me and my ADD. Takes a good guest to keep me on track.
I think a couple other things I really walked away from were really how prevalent nationwide a lot of these, like this issue with the border, this fear about it didn't just spring up with Trump. Like this has been here for a while.
Right.
The history is pretty deep.
Yeah.
And he's just, the catalyst for where we're at right now. But I really do think that we need to start talking about our mental health crisis. Like, why is no one talking about that across this nation?
Yeah.
In all
Pharmaceutical
regards.
abuse.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical drug abuse.
Depression, anxiety. Like, all of it.
Just normal, taking care of yourselves. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so weird. We live in this world where everybody's just like, they just want to get a nice house with a nice car and drive and go and look at their big screen TV and eat whatever. And it just is gross. It's just gross. But then it's like, you wonder why we have all these problems, like, why do we have all the mental health? I'm not a doctor, so I'm just like some guy talking in a van. But I'm riding my bike around and I'm healthy and I feel good and I'm happy and I'm loving life. And I'm happy, And then you're riding your bike and you see people like at night, they're watching TV and doing whatever. And, you wonder why heart disease and cancer and mental health and all the other things.
Yeah. And all, just like, there's so many things happening in our bigger cities too, of folks that don't have the privilege of recreation, and those young kids with depression, domestic violence, who don't have access to. We don't have any mental health services in this country. Like,
it's crazy. Like
what I have had to go through in the last 2 years to try and seek mental health support for someone of my privilege, of my education, my support system, where I live, my money that I have, my drive to just freaking figure it out, and I can't.
You're actively trying.
Yeah, there's nothing out there. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being someone like a single mom with a bunch of kids with a job that won't let her take time off to go to an appointment.
Right.
Like,
man, that really hits home what you said to me, because we talked about it earlier, but I went, 20 years suffering from really bad anxiety, specific like social anxiety. And I thought I had a physical ailment. Like I was always trying to treat it, thinking that it was my diet, it was something I was eating. And it turns out it was just anxiety that was manifesting itself in physical ways. And I was like you, I was like an active, like it bothered me. I was reading on the internet all the time. I was going to doctors. I was going to allergists. I was, reading different books and trying different diets. And I was doing so much. It was an all consuming thing. Like it was terrible. It was terrible. And so, yeah, it is a very important message to get out there that, man, go to your regular doctor and then go to one that'll help you out with your mental health, or go on a bike ride, or however you want to do it. But take time, spending time in your head and working through stuff. And like, if you do suffer from anxiety or depression, there are people that can help. You're right. There are no state or federal programs, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
but
like when we talk about these drugs.
So that's where you get into, the single mother with 2 kids that has 2 or 3 jobs and just doesn't have time to. Yeah, that's a problem.
And if her only option then is to choose the drugs that are available to her.
Oh, yeah.
Then she's going to choose that.
Yeah, they'll deliver.
Yeah.
They come here, they will.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I put those two. Just as I was talking from a privileged position of, well, there's mental health professionals that I can go see. And I did, and I've been able to get my anxiety under control, and it's been wonderful. But yeah, for less fortunate people, that's a huge need. I can't even imagine how many people suffer from anxiety and depression.
I think it's probably a very astounding number if we were able to
I'll say 80%, 75, 80%.
Yeah. I can't I honestly cannot tell you a friend that I have back home that doesn't have some form of that.
I find as you talk to people and you open up that everybody's touched it in some way. I mean, and I guess you don't really find people that come away unscathed. And maybe that goes back to how crazy this world is. Like everything used to be very simple not that long ago. And then we built industry and now we have like, I don't know, bills and jobs and houses and things, lawns we have to mow. And we got to get the kids on the soccer team and we got to like, you know, it's just like.
But a wall will fix that.
Oh, okay.
We just have to build a wall.
Podcast over. We've got this shit. There's a wall coming, people. No, you know, it's so. I got out of politics. Just, I mean, I do vote, but I can't do what you're doing, honestly. I have to withdraw myself and just focus on what I can control, the people in my life that I can influence, you know, through the podcast or just meeting people or whatnot, because I'm so disappointed by the people that lead this country. I mean, for you and I to be able to sit in a creepy van and have a conversation that's halfway reasonable and like talk about real issues, and neither one of us are experts. You're just rode your bike and had some thoughts, and you know, I grew up in the area and have some thoughts, but it's just like, it's just disappointing that that was the solution.
It's illogical.
Yeah, it's illogical. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
No.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
One of the more astounding things that I learned that is exhausting and frustrating to think about is how much money we're spending on this so-called border issue. And it goes beyond the wall and the border patrol and their security systems. And like, you read the book, The Devil's Highway, and you learn how much it costs for us to detain someone and send them home. It's like this insane amount of money.
I can imagine.
And there's a politician in the book, I can't remember her name, but she is quoted to say, like, what on earth would happen if we spent that money in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala, where most of these folks are coming from to escape violence, and said, hey, guys, like, why don't we give you this money, come up with a proposal, tell us how you would use it to make your economy and your city safer and stronger, and here you go. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, we've done it in other places.
Yeah,
we've done it in other countries, helped them with that. I mean, sometimes not well and sometimes well, but I'm not going to get into all of our track record. But the point is essentially is there is money there that could be appropriated in better and more sustainable ways. Like that permeates a generation, not just a fucking wall that becomes a divisive issue. I mean, I grew up and remember the Berlin Wall coming down. We have a piece of the Berlin Wall in my mom's house. I mean, it was a very, just a small piece. We bought it. Anyway, I mean, it was a powerful thing to like witness. It was huge. And I guess my hope for the wall is that it will come down one day. You know, like I hope that I'm here to see.
It just gave me goosebumps.
It's the only thing I can hope for, especially like having this conversation and realize, because like I said, my perspective was skewed to think that it wasn't quite as bad as the reality is they're building a fucking wall.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. One thing that was pretty shocking to me on this trip was how unafraid I was. When I told folks about this trip back home, at first I was just saying, yeah, I'm riding my bike across country. And I was like, okay, Jenny's doing that again. And then as soon as I used the word border, it was just like, what are you thinking? Are you insane? Don't do that. And I actually had a few friends express that they were angry with me, that I would put myself in this situation of danger.
It's selfish, all that.
Yeah. Or not necessarily selfish, but just they're going to be worried about me for 3 months.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's selfish. Like, why make me worry for you? Why are you going to put me through that?
Yeah. And
maybe I'm putting words in your friend's mouth, but...
Well, no, yeah, pretty similar.
Okay. And talk a little bit, too, while you're on this topic about how much time you spent on the American side and the Mexican side. And or if you did much of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I started the trip in Baja, so I did 2 weeks down south and then flew to San Diego. And I rode on the Mexico side very little, mainly because I really struggled to get information about public access versus private land in that area.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I did, I would get to border towns and then I would ride down, have lunch, hang out, and then go back up. So I didn't ride through a ton of Mexico.
Okay. But you just visited, hopped back and forth.
Yeah.
And just kind of saw both sides of the aisle, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, that's still, I would think, pretty informative.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just like, it's really just America, Mexico, America,
right.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes I was like, which country am I in right now?
Yeah,
Like,
I can
honestly,
imagine. I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's neat, though. That'll
Yeah.
be a good perspective to carry with you going forward.
Yeah. And a lot of those cities were like, they feel like their economies and their community rely so much on the sister city across the border. So they're both sides are devastated by how hard it is to exist
And it's
together.
been like that for hundreds of years.
So long.
We've been trading with them. I was reading a book about the Big Bend region, and candle wax was like a huge trade, like a trade business, and it actually developed a lot of that region down there. A lot of people live down there for that. So anyway, I mean, it's been going on for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. And honestly, the only time that I was afraid for my own personal safety was on my very last day at the Greyhound bus station in Brownville, Texas.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
I mean, honestly, there's Border Patrol everywhere. It's one of the safest places in this country.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
there's so much Border
I
Patrol.
literally had Border Patrol tell me to stop peeing on the side of the road because they could see me on their cameras.
Oh wow, they got the long telescopes, and so they're just like watching you pee.
Yeah,
Oh
they're
my
like,
gosh.
hey, just so you know.
Just so you know, we're watching everything you do. Oh, that's
And
creepy.
I was the girl with the disco ball, so they knew who I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the disco ball.
Yeah, she needs a name.
Okay.
Or he, I don't know.
Whatever. Non-binary
but yeah.
ball.
Yeah, goes everywhere with me.
Like how long have you had the ball? The disco
The
ball?
disco ball, a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I never go on
Where'd
a
you
bike
pick
trip
it up?
now.
Why? It's got to be some.
Amazon? I don't
Oh, you just
know.
you were like, I'm having a party on my bike and you're
Yeah.
coming with me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if it was like a sentimental token of some sort or.
I mean, sort of. It's it's multi-purpose. I love how bikepacking trips, people are just so drawn to talk to you as a cyclist, and with the disco ball in general, it's a really great conversation opener.
Yeah, I've heard this before that people have specific things that'll loosen up
Yeah.
or contribute to like someone wanting to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, and it makes me I don't know, not intimidating, I guess. I don't think I'm a very intimidating person.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty obvious that I'm up for a fun time with my disco ball.
Or you're a crazy lady on a bike with a disco ball.
That too.
It could go
Maybe a little both.
Yeah. And both is fun.
Yeah.
You know, you don't always have to be one person.
Yeah.
You know, you can be the crazy lady on a bicycle sometimes.
And I mean, it sparkles in sunshine, makes me smile.
Good.
It did get us a lot of free margaritas at a party we ended up in Baja.
Oh.
It was a 70-year-old birthday party, and it was disco themed.
Oh.
And I was like, hey, y'all need a disco ball?
I brought one.
They're-
Bring your own disco ball night. You're in luck.
They were really excited.
Oh, I bet. That is awesome. All right. Well, one thing that I thought would be fun, as we were just talking, I get a lot of requests from people that are looking to get into bikepacking, and you obviously lead some classes and stuff. So what are some advice, some tips that you give to other people that are looking on going on their first trip or just getting into it?
Ask all the questions.
To who? Where do
Me.
you go?
Instagram me.
Okay. Yeah.
I
that's
love
great.
talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what's your Instagram?
Juniper Schmidt. And yeah, ask all the questions, try it out. Don't be hard on yourself. Like there is no right way to go bikepacking.
Part of the beauty is doing it your own way.
Yeah.
Pray, celebrate your individuality. Find your own way to do it. You know?
Yeah. Use a trash bag with some belay straps. Like you don't need $1,000 gear setup. Like you can make it work.
Yeah.
And like slowly build your kit over time, especially if finances are hard for you. Borrow stuff, test it out. I always tell people, like, especially with like learning how to pack your bike, like it's really frustrating sometimes, and know that it's not you. It's hard to figure out. Stuff breaks. Yeah. Bring a lot of zip ties.
Yeah, I mean, it is an adventure.
Yeah.
You know, and open up your mind to that.
And make sure you're having fun.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like if you're not having fun, then maybe bikepacking in a different way. Like we were talking about earlier, like you don't need to bike cross country. Like do a 2-day trip.
I've never been across the country.
Yeah.
I do lots of trips. I do a lot of micro adventures because that's what my life can afford me to do right now. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of them. I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching other people like you on Instagram. And I actually, you had a tracker so I could follow your dot as you were going along. I couldn't see you pee, but I could see where you're camping and stuff. And, you know, I enjoy all of it. And there's, like you said, lots of different ways to do it. And so I look at those as ways to be inspired and like, and then maybe like, oh, I want to try that sometime, you know, lots of ways to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like find someone on Instagram who really speaks to you. Like if there's someone who's doing a certain kind of bikepacking or perhaps is in your area or it looks like you, there's some really cool folks out there talking about what it's like to bikepack as a more like overweight person or, you know, there's some really cool folks talking about what it's like to try and feel safe as a transgender cyclist. Like, I think you'll find that if you reach out to someone, they're going to be really excited to talk to you.
There seems to be some good groups and some good communities forming, you being one of them, to just make, help people get introduced to a great sport.
Yeah.
A great activity, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I mean, if you live in Bellingham, I'll go with you.
Yeah. I mean, people can, I get lots of messages. I always try to respond. I mean, you know, yeah. Again, one other thing, what was your personal setup? What were you riding, kind of bike? What was your setup like?
I had a Esker Hayduk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hardtail. Yeah.
Okay. They used to be Hayduk cycles, right?
Yeah.
And then
or Advocate cycles.
Advocate, that's right. Advocate. Yeah. Okay. And then Esker.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. It's perfect for me. The one thing I would have.
That's a hardtail. I don't.
27 and a half.
27 and a half.
2.8 tires.
Wow. And you were doing mostly gravel when you could?
Yep. A lot of gravel, a lot of deep sand. Some pavement. Texas is a lot of pavement.
Yeah. Yes.
I couldn't really get around that. Not too much climbing. It's pretty flat.
So why'd you pick that bike? Is that like your bike?
The geometry just feels so good for me. It just fits me really, really well. I mean, it stood the test of 3,000 miles and not a single thing went wrong until the end, where I literally wore through my tubeless tires. So there's no more tire.
That's not the bike's fault.
Right, exactly. But to not have a mechanical issue for that long is insane.
Yeah.
Really well built. I really love how Esker lets you custom build the bike to your particular needs and desires. So that was really cool. And they were so kind and open with every question that I had, emailing them. Yeah, really great fit from a frame bag. And yeah.
So what do you look for whenever so reliability, comfort, like what were your goals that you were trying to accomplish with taking that bike?
Something that was as versatile as possible, because I don't really stick to any one kind of terrain. So I wanted something that I could take on a lot of different trips in the future.
Yeah.
I do think I'm going to switch it out to some drop bars.
Did you see mine that I just converted to a drop bar? Yeah, I have a Chumba Stella, and it's a flat bar mountain bike with a suspension fork, and ever since I mean, it's a wonderful bike. I mean, but I was like, man, I just really want to put drops on it, and I am in love with that bike.
Really?
Yes. I'll show you pictures.
Sweet.
Oh, actually, you're going to come to my house.
Yeah.
I'll let you touch it.
Get to meet it.
Yeah. I'll introduce you to my bikes. It'll be fun. Yeah, but I really did. That's one thing I really love. I mean, talking about, making it your own is like, I've been riding a bike since I was 4 years old. I've never been professionally fit. I just kind of ride by feel, and I'm not saying this is the only right way to do it, and my shit's probably wrong sometimes, but I'm more focused on like having fun, and and if I like it, then that's great, and so like the geometry on that bike doesn't really make sense, but I have like long legs and a short torso and long arms, and so maybe it just works for my weird body. But
we're all different.
I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it. So I support you in your decision.
Thank you. I think versatility in bikepacking is so rad. It's one of the coolest things about the sport. Like this route that I was on, like I think it's unfortunate when people are purists when it comes to routes and like feel like they have to stick to it. But it was so cool to be alone on this solo trip and just like change it up whenever I needed to or wanted to, or when the border patrol said I had to.
Well, let's talk about, I agree with you. I've tried to get away from, I'm trying to let it just be an adventure, but a big constraint there is time, having the time to be able to just not stick to a route. Because, the nice thing about a route, you got 3 days, you're like, okay, we go here, camp here, be back at the car, go back to work. So how is it that you took all this time off?
I asked.
Who do you ask? I want to ask somebody.
I work for an angel named Janet Leitner who didn't even hesitate when I asked her if I could take a couple months off to kind of reset. So
you took how many months off?
It was about 2.5, 3 months.
When do you go back?
So. Friday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like in 4 days.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. You're like not wanting to think about the countdown.
I'm so excited to see my friends, but I'm not quite ready to go home.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So I'll ask what's her name? Janet?
Janet.
Janet would like to know, do you intend to come back to work?
Yeah.
Forever and ever?
No.
What is this trip? How has it evolved your perspective on what your future might look like?
Man. I think that I have realized how much I just really enjoy moving my body, and how necessary it is for me.
You mean dancing?
Yep. There's so many videos yet to share. Just movement in general, talking to people, learning about my country, and where I live. Dream job, being a bicycle journalist would just be like freaking rad.
Yeah.
I think I would be really good at it.
You should do it.
Cool. I'm going to do that.
Okay. You can write for the Bikes or Death podcast.
Sweet.
You got your first gig. Now you just need 1,000 more.
Do I get free tacos?
I don't have any tacos. I don't have a taco to give. Wait, I got you tacos earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sweet.
Tacos are definitely a part of the package.
Paid. Don't put cilantro on them.
Okay.
I love helping people. I love being a part of a community, and bettering this place. So however that looks.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm stoked on it.
Yeah, looking for an opportunity to give back in some way.
Yeah.
Just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Maybe leading bikepacking trips.
Well,
but I do that anyway. Yeah.
That is a perfect way to end the podcast. Because then the next one we can say, what happened in Jenny's life? What did she figure out?
What did she do when she
What
grew
did
up?
she accomplish? Hopefully you do something, or else it's going to be a not great podcast.
Oh, so much pressure.
I'm kidding. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I appreciate so much that you rode all the way here from California just to see me.
Just for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it means a lot.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Anything else that you wanted to share or say before we close it out?
Just if anyone is interested in the route, or wants to do it, I'd love to share it.
The border route?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, saw some pretty cool things.
Do you have a blog or anything with more information about it, or just like reach out on Instagram?
Just Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
And again, that was Juniper Schmidt, at Juniper Schmidt.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Juniper Schmidt.
Juniper Schmidt.
Out.
Mic drop. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thanks again to Jenny for riding her bike all the way from California just to talk to little old me in the back of my van in a field at Rocky Hill Ranch. It was great getting to know you. And again, I am rooting for you and all of your friends out there in Oregon and all of my friends across the globe. Yeah, crazy times, but I am optimistic that we will get through it and we will live to ride again. My next guest is Emma Flukes. You can find her on Instagram at OneFlukeShot. I recommend that you go check her out. Her Instagram is quite entertaining. She is a wealth of knowledge and quite, like I said, she's just entertaining and fun and entertaining. And we had a great chat. She's all the way over there in Tasmania, Australia. Another one of those all the way across the globe type deals. So that one's coming up next. I think I'm going to try to just release episodes as I can get them out. With everything that's going on in the world, how crazy it is, I realize there's a lot of people stuck at home. So if me putting out podcasts can be a source of entertainment, a distraction from all the craziness that's going on, then I think that could be good. So I'm going to just release them as I can, with the understanding that, my life too is crazy. I have not been untouched or unscathed by everything that's going on. Actually, spoiler alert, we talk about how this has affected me in that next episode with Emma. So, dun, 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 stay tuned. Listen, friends, I know life is stressful, particularly now. Never have we experienced something on this scale. We're used to a tornado that decimates a town or flooding that takes out a community. This is the first time in all of our existence that something has united us in such a strange way. There's a lot of things we can't do right now. We can't go to the store and shake hands with the clerk or go out to a restaurant with the ones that you love and get together over a beer or go dancing. I know that's hard, but use this as an opportunity to learn and to grow, maybe find out about yourself. And if nothing else, just go ride your damn bike solo or within 6 feet of other people. Thank you.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
Washington. Grassroots. went back to her home in Washington.